Okay, it looks like it's 4:05 now. If you just joined us, we are about to get started. And if you haven't already, you can go ahead and share where you are logging in from in the chat. We've already seen some folks in the Bay Area, some folks not too far from where we are in Davis, and some folks in Southern California. Once again, welcome. We are so excited to have you join us for this webinar today. This is an Undeclared Exploratory webinar for those students who are in the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences. So we know we can't see you at the moment because this is a webinar. You can see us for the moment, but we know you're there and we appreciate your presence, and we are looking forward to sharing more with you tonight about what you can expect moving forward. So our agenda today looks like it's pretty full, but I promise you we'll have time to cover plenty of this information. We are going to start with introduction so that you know a little bit more about who is presenting to you tonight. We're going to have a couple activities to get to know you a little bit better, like a mental push-up, reflection. We're going to tell you a little bit more about this program, like what it means to be Undeclared Exploratory. We are going to explain to you a little bit about the resources that you have available to you as a UC Davis student, primarily being academic advising, what kind of resources exist in that realm. Also, resources that exist outside of advising on campus to help you get involved. And then we'll get to the stuff that I'm sure a lot of you have questions about, which is some requirements for registration as you think about planning your schedule for fall quarter. And then at the very end, we are going to save plenty of time to answer some of your questions. So if you have questions along the way, just know we will be covering lots of information that might answer those. And we will be sure to go ahead and answer your questions at the very end. So you can save those for later and go ahead and put them in the Q&A once we get to that point. At it, I guess I'll start with my introduction. I am Haley Hill, and I am the front desk advisor in the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences Dean's office. I was actually a student at UC Davis myself for my undergrad, and I really enjoyed my experience there. On here, you'll see that we've got some tips for you or some words of wisdom, some advice from us in the advising office to students who are coming to join us. And my advice to you would be to get involved. Academics are very important, and that's definitely something that's going to be on your mind. But today we're also going to be talking about other things that you can do to really solidify your experience at UC Davis as a great one and one that meets all your goals.
My name is Jarrell McGifford. Happy that all of you are here today. I'm one of the academic advisors. Think about my time in undergrad, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And you don't have to have all the answers. You have a lot of supports on this campus that are here to help you navigate through it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Lee. I'm one of the academic advisors here in the College of Ag as well. I'm excited to get to know you all a little bit and excited for you to get to know us a little bit as well. My piece of advice, especially starting out, get to know your faculty, take advantage of office hours that can really help you figure out internship and research opportunities as you get started here at UC Davis. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and turn our cameras off as we continue through the rest of the presentation and look forward to learning more about you.
So if you would think about how your friends and family describe you, and how would they describe you in 3 words or less? Drop that in the chat. This mental push-up is just an opportunity for us to get to know you a little bit better and for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and how you show up. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and move along. Hardworking and caring. Caring, mature, outgoing. Positive, curious. Positive and curious. Reserved, hardworking, and funny. Some powerful words, some powerful words. Well, in the second time, I do want to move forward. You can continue to add your words and sharing your stories.
So when we consider undeclared exploratory, sometimes we consider this in very broad ways. Sometimes we may consider this in very specific ways. It can really mean a lot for a lot of different folks. And we just want to encourage you to know that we're here to support you throughout your time here at Davis. So for those of you that talked about being curious and insightful and determined and hardworking, these are all great attributes that are going to help you develop the resiliency that is going to carry you through your time here at Davis. So when we think about undeclared exploratory, we consider this in a variety of different ways. And as you're seeing on the screen, some of you may be interested in multiple majors. You might be unsure of what to study. Maybe you kind of have an idea of what you want to study, but you're not quite sure of the career pathway or other interests that you have. Maybe you just kind of selected something and this was the first alphabetical thing that you saw on the application when you submitted your application to UC Davis. Whatever the case may be, we are here to support you. Some students may already know, I want to pursue animal science or wildlife, fish, and conservation biology or nutrition science or any of the other great majors on campus. And with that, that's great. We want to encourage you in that. For those of you that might be interested in, I don't know, the environmental sciences, and just want to know more about the different options, that's great too. And then there might be some of you that are just like, hey, I'm undeclared because I really have no idea. We love to have those conversations as well. So regardless of where you are, we're here to meet you where you're at. And with that, we want to just encourage you to know that we are here to support you and work with you each step of the way. So next, please feel free to share in the chat. What would you suggest are some of the biggest differences between high school and college?
Deadlines. What else? The campus size difference. What else? What else comes to mind? You have to pay. Diversity. Anything else that comes to mind? Well, for me, when I think about the biggest difference is I think about the amount of autonomy and how much responsibility you all have as being college students. One of the things that's very different is the power of choice. There's so many decisions that you're going to have to make, whether it's which course to take in which order, or how many courses. You have a lot more freedom than in other spaces than in high school. And the expectation is that you're making these decisions with support. And you don't have, like I said before, you don't have to have the final answers, but there's all these supports around campus that can help you navigate, can help you understand. But the number of choices you have to make is one of the biggest difference between high school and college. See, what else do we have in the chat? More support, the priorities, and deadlines become a key, one of the key factors, or one of the key things that you have to stay on top of are deadlines. And so organization is important. Learning how to study is just as much of a priority. Time management, another great response. Anyone else like to share? What else do we have? Time management. Okay. With that, I'm going to pass it to Haley, and she's going to talk about some of our support programs. Just bear with me. Or let me continue in terms of talking about our support. If you want to look at academic support, think about it as divided into 4 different categories. We have major advising, UAP Dean's Office, faculty advisors, major peer advisors. So again, this whole network of support is all around you here at UC Davis. And so there's some differences and some similarities in terms of how we support you. We all recommend classes, referrals to campus resources. In terms of the dean's office, until you declare an official major, in essence, we're your major advisors. Focusing on general education, college policies and procedures, and the peers do the same. Your major advisors really get you to the nitty-gritty of what's entailed and what's expected of you for your particular major. They're also, them along with the faculty advisors, are great with connecting you to resources that are major specific or concentration specific. And with that, I'll pass it to Haley to talk about some campus resources.
Thank you, Jarrell. As Jarrell mentioned, we do have advising resources available to you, but there are also so many other places on campus to get support. And that's one of the really great things about UC Davis. If you want to have a really rich and well-rounded experience where you're involved in campus, you're getting to know other students, you're taking part in different activities, there is a place and there's a space for you to do that. One of the student organizations on campus that is very beneficial and that our college offers is called Manners. You'll learn soon that there's a lot of acronyms on campus, but Manners stands for Multiculturalism in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences. And this is a group that actually allows students to travel to different conferences and engage in public speaking. So if that's something that you're interested in, this would be a great option for you. And in this process of doing these different public speaking activities, people hone in on their communication skills and get to know other students and make connections to people on other campuses. In addition to Manners, we also have Aggie ambassadors, and you'll see that Joe is actually putting some links to these different groups and resources in the chat for you if you'd like to learn more. But Aggie Ambassadors actually is both a club and a class that we offer in the College of Ag. And basically students in this organization, in this club, students who take these classes get to participate in different events. They get to practice their leadership skills. They get to provide outreach to other students and engage other students on campus. And there's also some great community service opportunities. So if those things interest you, Ag Ambassadors might be something to check out. Beyond banners and Aggie ambassadors, something specific to our college is called Aggie Jumpstart. And you'll see that there's a little bubble there that says applications are due July 10th. So some of you might have already gotten a chance to attend information sessions for those. If not, the gist of the group is that it's a program that promotes inclusivity and that helps students who may be first generation or who may be in underrepresented groups on campus in their first year or who are transferring to UC Davis. It helps them get connected with advising resources, with other students, gives them access to mentoring and community building to help them be successful on campus. Additionally, something that students in our college have access to is called career discovery groups. We also refer to this as CDG. And Aggie Jumpstart students actually get their own sections of CDG, but anybody really can sign up for these classes if they are in their first year or if you are in your first quarter as a transfer student. And these classes give you kind of a different perspective on different little like chances to engage in like career exploration. So sometimes it's like learning about the different fields of study that are really prevalent among our students or among our faculty. Maybe it's exploring careers later on. Usually these classes are pretty small and they're 20 to 25 students. So you kind of get to explore these different opportunities with people who share your interests or who are exploring their interests like you are. And as I mentioned, it's open to first year students, and first year students can register all 3 quarters during their first year, fall, winter, and spring, and then transfers will register only in the fall. If you are looking for additional places to find community and to engage with students like yourself, to find a sense of belonging, to feel like Davis is your home away from home, there are other centers on campus that can provide you with these experiences. So we have the Women's Resources and Research Center. We have the Center for African Diaspora Student Success, for Chicanx and Latinx academic success, Native American academic student success, and LGBTQIA Resource Center, as well as the Cross-Cultural Center to help you get involved in events, to help you meet other students who are like yourselves, and to help give you an inclusive experience at Davis. And next, we're going to talk about requirements and registration.
All right. Thanks, Haley. So we hope that as we transition into degree requirement information that you understand, and one of the reasons we really wanted to highlight a lot of those community resources is the incredible importance of building community and finding a sense of belonging on campus. One of the most common challenges that we hear from first year students, both transfer and first years, are just the challenges that it is being away from home for the first time. And so for many of you, that is something that we really want to encourage you to explore and find ways to connect on campus. So as we think about requirements and registration, there's a few things that we want to highlight heading into our time today. First and foremost, when we think about degree requirements at UC Davis, you have university, college, and major requirements. General education is part of our university requirements. So really, when you're going to complete your degree, it's kind of like fulfilling pieces of the pie. So eventually you'll work with advisors on major specific requirements once you identify a major, but we can help understand some of those pieces as well from the college level. So the first thing we want to touch on today are some of the writing requirements here at UC Davis. There is what's called the entry-level writing requirement. Then there's the college composition requirement. And then there is what's called writing experience, which is part of your general education curriculum. At first, we start with the entry-level writing requirement. So when we look at this is something that for many of you, you could have completed or satisfied this requirement prior to starting at UC Davis. And you can satisfy that in a few different ways, either via standardized test score. There's also potential for receiving credit for this via AP exam credit. But the entry-level writing is something that students need to complete by the end of their third quarter at UC Davis. So if you have not satisfied the entry-level writing requirement, we strongly recommend that you take the writing placement survey as soon as you can. That survey will place you into a path of either satisfying the entry-level writing requirement or needing to take a course to satisfy the entry-level writing requirement. After you have satisfied the college or the entry-level writing requirement, then you can start working on the college composition requirement. For those of you who have AP English scores of a 4 or a 5, you have satisfied the entry-level writing requirement and half of the college composition requirement. It's also important that for those of you that have a 4 or a 5 on the any AP English exam, that you do not enroll in UWP 1 or English 3 here at UC Davis. There are certain classes that you can take and receive credit for after receiving or passing the AP exam, and certain classes that you cannot. And UWP 1 or English 3 are ones that you can't receive credit for if you've scored a 4 or a 5 on either AP English exam. One of the unique features about our specific college, if you stay in our college and ultimately declare a major, students are not required to specifically take an upper division or junior or senior year level class in composition to satisfy the college composition requirement. If you major in the other 3 colleges, if you end up choosing a major in engineering, biological sciences, or the College of Letters and Science, you will need to plan eventually on taking an upper division composition course, a course that's numbered 100 to 199. So those are some of the things just to think about. But as you're preparing for first quarter registration, a course to satisfy the entry-level writing requirement, or potentially one of these first courses to satisfy college composition could be great options for you to consider when building your first quarter schedule.
In terms of chemistry and math placement, I think these are very important things to also remember. In terms of chemistry, there are no exceptions to the chemistry placement requirements. So all students who register for chemistry 2A or 4A are required to satisfy the chemistry placement requirement. In terms of math, there are no exemptions for SAT, AP, or IB scores, as well as math courses taken at other institutions. The math course placement determines your level of preparation for college level math courses offered at UC Davis. All students who register for math 12, 16A, 17A, 19A, 21A, or 21M are required to take the math placement course placement.
Okay, we are almost at the conclusion of the presentation portion of this webinar, and we would like to tell you what's coming up next. So something that you'll be able to expect tomorrow is an email from us about group advising sessions. These are going to be chances for you to get more of your specific questions answered by advisors from our office. And if you want to meet with an advisor one-on-one, there will be opportunities to do that in sort of a breakout room format. So we will be, again, sending information about that tomorrow via email with some different dates and times for you, as well as Zoom links. Additionally, we are going to make sure you are prepared for Pass 1 during that time. But if you are not sure when your Pass 1 is, first-year students, it will be August 1st, and you'll be able to continue adding classes on the 2nd. If you're a transfer student, registration is going to begin for you on August 15th and August 16th. Pass 2 registration will happen later in August, so towards the end of the month and into September. That'll be a time for you to make any changes to your schedule if you need to, if you had to waitlist any classes before, or if you need to waitlist classes at this point, then you'll have time to make sure that you are getting the courses that you want by the time fall actually begins. And then there will be Aggie orientation late September, the 20th through the 24th, depending on whether you're a transfer student or a first-year student. And this will be an opportunity to get further support from us and get to know the other students who are joining you. And with that, this is a time for you to ask those questions that you might have been holding on to or that have come up for you during the presentation. And yes, as Joe put in the chat, we are going to use the Q&A feature.
So first question is about the entry-level writing requirement. And it says, how do I satisfy my entry-level writing requirement if I place into Path 3? So for students that place into Path 3, they will need to take a class to satisfy the entry-level writing requirement here at UC Davis. And in order to do that, there are a few different course options that students can enroll in. And I'm sharing a link into chat right now with those class options available. Most students will take one of our UWP 7 class offerings. There's also a UC online course available as well. Students may also choose to take a co-class, and a co-class is UWP 1A, where students would have to also be enrolled in UWP 1 at the same time, where they can satisfy entry-level writing and half their college composition if they did UWP 1 and 1A or English 3 and 3A, or Native American Studies 5 and Native American Studies 5A. You can find information at that link that I put into chat. Another question here is, generally, when are placement exams to be completed? So yeah, Haley or Jarrell, would one of you want to answer that question?
I can give a general answer. So since we said generally, when are they supposed to be completed? Typically, there's 2 windows for you to take the placement exams, and it kind of depends on each exam, whether it's math, chemistry, or like if you're trying to do the writing placement survey. Usually it will be a window in like May or June to start. And that's typically recommended just so that you can go into your past one knowing already where you've placed for the various subjects. Or there's also an additional window in September, but it's after you would have already had your registration time. So there are factors to consider there, where if you are in a course that maybe requires you to be in a certain like placement based on the exam, you could potentially be dropped from that course if you do not place correctly, if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone wants to add.
Yeah, I think that's great, Haley. One of the key things that I encourage students to consider is what Haley is referencing, is that because of the windows of the exams, you might not have the appropriate or qualifying placement score at the time that you register for a given class. Now, that does not mean that you can't register at the beginning of August for it. It just means that if you do, you have to be mindful that a schedule adjustment may need to be made in the future if you don't achieve the qualifying score necessary. So it's something where, as Jarrell was talking about before, with respect to autonomy, this is one of those things where you've got to keep an eye on in the future. This actually leads into another question that we got. When can I retake the math and chem placements? Those windows will open back up in September, and you can check on the respective websites. And I'm going to put those links into chat as well. So here is the chemistry one. And then for math, here is the information about the math placement. So it's typically going to be in September at that point in time for the next window to be opened up.
There was a great question. When is the best time to start planning what classes to take and building a schedule with the schedule builder? I think it's never too early. I think the process of trying to figure out what majors make the most sense, what courses make the most sense. There's a tool that we have in our office called a degree audit. And one of the things that it does is it breaks down what your general education requirements are. I think reading course descriptions is the best way to do it. You have all these separate requirements, but reading the course descriptions, I think sometimes the titles can be misleading. So exploring different departments, exploring different course descriptions. And like I said, I believe that process can start now. And then as you find time to meet with us during the summer or during the academic year, I think we can have those very fruitful conversations about next steps, which classes, and what's the intended major moving on. Joe, Haley, do either one of you have anything you want to add to that part of the conversation?
No, I think you hit it. There are a series of questions about the writing placement, and Haley put an excellent link into chat just to give you some information about the writing placement. If you have not done it already, you're allowed to take the writing placement survey once. This is not one that you can take a second time. Once you get your placement, you've got your placement. And so once you take it, the writing placement folks will reply back to you with your placement result information. So you'll find out via email from the entry-level writing folks, and they'll give you your placement information. For those of you that have satisfied your entry-level writing requirement, you could enroll in a course like UWP 1 or English 3, keeping in mind that is a good option for those who have not received a 4 or a 5 on the AP English exam. We do want to be mindful of that, because if you received a 4 or a 5 on AP English, you're actually pretty good for the moment in terms of college composition. But if you're looking for a class to add and you satisfied your entry-level writing, but you don't have advanced placement credit, then UWP 1 or English 3 are great first quarter options that we encourage students to consider. The next question that we see here in chat: what should my first steps be in determining which classes I should take if I don't know which major I want? Is there some kind of chart that I can follow in order to have some guidance on what classes to take? This is an excellent question, and especially for those of you that are in that kind of space of mind where you're unsure of your major, or maybe you have a general idea, but still considering a variety of different options. One of the first things we want to encourage you to consider is not overloading your schedule with all science or all math type questions. We want to strive for a balance. So maybe a couple science and math prep classes with a GE class. For those of you that are interested in science-based majors, generally those majors will require you to take chemistry and calculus. So we encourage students to start with those for sure, starting with kind of how they choose to proceed with chemistry or calculus. Those give you 2 course options. Maybe you include an English or a GE class in the mix with that. For students that are interested in majors in our specific college, we have a great resource that I'm putting in the chat. In this web page, there's information called there's a majors brochure link that you can look at. And at the very end of that brochure, you will find a chart that shares common prerequisites for majors in our college. So you can see all the majors that require chemistry and biological sciences and calculus and physics and statistics. So this gives you a great place to start for those that have common prerequisites. We generally recommend students start with chemistry and calculus in their first year. Then your second year generally consists of biological sciences and organic chemistry. That's kind of the general progression, if you will, that we encourage students to look at.
Also,
oh, sorry, go ahead,
go
Jarrell.
for it, go for it.
I was just going to say, in addition to what Joe said, we will also be able to go over a little bit more scheduling information with you during the group advising sessions. I saw that there was a question about that in the chat or in the Q&A also. But as far as like where to start, we will be able to like give you more information in some of the emails that you're getting about like major exploration tools if you kind of want to look into different majors and you're not really sure how to explore them. And then we also do have some sample schedules available on our website. Our website's going to be updated in the coming weeks and months, but those sample schedules can be helpful to look at too.
There's an excellent question in here about changing majors and kind of waiting to change majors. So one of the things that's important to note in terms of officially declaring a major at UC Davis is that you do have to be in good standing at minimum in order to be eligible to change majors. And you can't establish an academic standing until you've been enrolled at Davis for at least a quarter. So you're not going to be able to officially declare or change your major at the very least until winter of 2024. However, if you've identified a major that you want to pursue, we certainly encourage you and will work with you to get the contact information for that particular major. In addition to being in good standing, some majors will require you to also have a series of prerequisites done before you can officially change majors. This is especially important for majors in the College of Engineering, where every major in that college requires you to complete a series of prerequisites before you can officially declare the major. And it may take you a few quarters before you're able to get all those prerequisites done. And so from our perspective, we want to encourage you and support you and work with you as you identify the majors and start to work towards those specific majors that you want to pursue. So it may take a few quarters before you can officially change majors, depending on which one you want to change to. And so in the meantime, we encourage you to follow recommended scheduling from that particular major if you've identified one. Or if not, you can work with our office, and we'll go into more information about this during the group advising sessions that you'll have an opportunity to attend in the coming weeks.
I just wanted to add that I guess another way to consider like what courses you, what are your GEs? So you're required to complete 52 units of topical breath, and those are divided by 3 particular areas: arts and humanities, science and engineering, and social sciences. And then you have core literacy areas. So literacy in words, civic and cultural literacy, quantitative literacy, scientific literacy. And you can use Schedule Builder to find those specific courses. There was an earlier question about trying to figure out how to determine which major. I think using courses as an opportunity to explore departments is another healthy step. So let's say if you're interested in psychology, you can use your psychology courses to satisfy, let's say, a social and behavioral, a social science requirement. Taking multiple courses in a particular department is another way to really just get a better sense of what that department is about, what those courses are about, and what that major might be like. You can also schedule time using office hours to talk to professors. I think that's an underutilized resource, is talking to professors about their journey. How did they get there and why? You may hear some of that. You may read some of that on the webpage. You may hear some of that in the initial lectures, but I think having candid conversations about professors and their journeys may give you tremendous insight.
All right, let's see here. Somebody has noticed as they look into classes that there might be some classes that have Pass 1 registration restrictions. So for some courses, departments that offer courses may restrict enrollment to specific declared majors during Pass 1 of registration. In many cases, in most cases, that's not going to really impact first year, first quarter students as much. It may in some specific instances, but that is something to keep in mind, that If your major is not listed on the major restriction list, then unfortunately you might not be able to sign up during Pass 1. Pass 2 is when registration restrictions tend to get lifted, and you could waitlist yourself or add the course at that particular time.
The subject of waitlisting, I did see a question in the Q&A about kind of what you should do if you are trying to waitlist courses when they're full, and asking about like limits on like what courses you can waitlist or how many you can waitlist. And the thing to know about waitlisting courses is that those courses you are on the waitlist for are not going to count toward that minimum of 12 units. So you just want to be careful and make sure that you are enrolled in 12 units, because as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, there are requirements for like financial aid, student housing, that say that you need to have 12 units to be considered a full-time student.
Also, just consider when you're planning. At least this was one of the strategies that I took. Was when planning, I plan an A schedule, a B schedule, and a C schedule. And maybe this is overkill, but I like to be prepared, just in case the classes that I want most aren't the classes that I necessarily need to be in. Especially if you have time in your schedule. In these classes that you're planning to take or you're interested in, I wouldn't miss any class days. Same thing with those waitlisted courses. You don't want to miss any class days, because class days equal material. And if you're missing material, you're missing content. And because we're on the quarter system, missing content can be very problematic moving forward and being successful in the courses. So I would plan multiple schedules. If I have the flexibility to attend those classes, I would. And same thing with waitlisted courses.
If my SAT score exempts me from entry-level writing, do I have to submit my score anywhere? No, if as long as your SAT scores have been submitted as part of your admissions to Davis, which they should have been when you applied to Davis, we have that information and there's no additional steps needed for that. And then there's a question here about priority registration. There are a handful of student populations, relatively small number of students, who have what it's called priority registration, where they are, during the registration cycle, able to register on the very first day of registration. This does not, I should say this does not affect a lot of students. So I do want to just point that out, but some of the common student populations that have priority registration include students in the university honors program, student parents. This could include students who have disabilities with the Student Disability Center. They may be eligible for accommodations that include priority registration. The biggest population is going to be student athletes, where their practice and team sport participation times make their schedule a little bit more limited. So when we're thinking about priority registration as a whole, in terms of the number of students, it's a very limited number. For incoming students, there is a priority registration time that will take place just before the registration period starts in the beginning of August. So that's just something to keep an eye out. You should get some information about that. And if you have questions about that, let us know. But priority registration just allows you to register for classes at the very beginning of the cycle. Now, what should I do if I don't have access to electronics during Pass 1? So if you're unavailable during the registration pass times, it is important to note that it's not just at that specific time. It's a block of time. It's an expanded window of time. So hopefully you're able to log in if your registration time begins at, say, 9 a.m. and you're not available until 10 a.m., you should be fine and you can log in at that point in time. Otherwise, after pass times, there's what's called open registration hours that take place in the evening and on weekends that you'll have access to register for classes. So we encourage you definitely to register as soon as you can if you're unable to register at your specific pass time. We can contact you anytime when we need advising, correct? Absolutely. We may not be available at every time, but we are here to support you. We're going to put our advising link in the chat here in just a second as I get it pulled up. But we are your support. Don't hesitate to reach out to us as you're getting ready. We have drop-in availability. And a general advising email address that Haley also put into chat. We are available to you via drop-in, via telephone, via email. We are here for you and happy to answer any questions that do come up. Programs such as STEP allow for some of the placement requirements to be met at that time? That's actually an excellent question, and I'm not entirely sure of the full STEP schedule for those of you that are part of STEP. We have an advisor in our office who is kind of our liaison to the STEP and EOP programs at Davis. Please feel free to email the email address that Haley dropped into chat, and we can get you in contact with Lily Bynes, who is our advisor, who is our liaison to the EOP and STEP program. And she may have more updated information about the content that will be covered there. That's an excellent question. So with that being said, that does bring us to the conclusion of our time today. We hope that this webinar helped you understand some of the advising resources available. The webinar recording will be posted on our website. We will share that link with you all when that is available. If you have any additional questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to let us know. And we look forward to meeting you more in person and during the group advising sessions coming up. We hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your summer.